Hey everybody, it's me, Ross, again, and I actually just realized that I have not uploaded yesterday's video, which I recorded late last night, and didn't want to be bothered getting my laptop out because I'm trying to recover and get sleep. But I probably will upload that one before I upload this one, so that won't mean anything, I guess, except for that it's especially late, because I know everyone is waiting with bated breath for every single one of these that comes out, and they're really angry if it doesn't come out immediately. So I understand that. I understand that's a problem, and a lot of people are, like you all, being very patient, and I really appreciate that. And I'm trying to, meet demand here, because I know it's high. So yeah, I had just a couple thoughts, and the first one is that I just watched a video by Nick Robinson, who's a guy who did video stuff for Rev3, and now he's at Polygon, and he does a lot of stuff with gaming and anime and stuff. And he talked about being at a convention, an anime convention, for the first time in like many years, since he was like a teenager, and how his impression then wasn't super good because he thought it was kind of like awkward. And now that he goes post-drinking age, which apparently really helps, that he described it like the huge thing that he likes about conferences is just the people. And I found that really, I totally agree with that and found that quite relevant, right? Because I just was at a conference where the conversations and the people and the inspiration was just like the core of all of it. And, while like all the events are like super important, and that's what facilitates all this enjoyment and discussion and joy and everything, what I walk away with is like, oh man, there's so many people here who are like super excited and super interesting, and I have all these new friends, and it's great. So I thought that was pretty interesting timing. And again, totally agree. The same thing happens like with Dragon Con and stuff. You're just surrounded by awesome people. Of course, that one's just there's a critical mass, so it's hard to make friends, but you do have some really awesome experiences. And it's not always necessarily like, oh, that talk was super great. Okay, and so I had a couple other things, and these all seem to be along the original theme I started off with, which is just like catching up on stuff because I was late on last night's, and this one I guess will go up tonight. But I finally listened to an episode that came out last week of a podcast I really enjoy called Consilience, which is hosted by two Georgia Tech people. One's a professor here, and one is a librarian. And they just talk about the intersection of science and the humanities in like a really intelligent and nuanced way that I really like. And it turns out, I listened to maybe like 10 minutes of it because the title of it seemed to imply that it might be about a blog post I wrote in response to one of their episodes from last month. But after about 10 minutes in, and then my week got really busy, so I had full intention of finishing it. Like, there was no doubt about that. But I was like, if this is about me, I feel like I should really listen to it. And so I got 10 minutes in, and they were still kind of bantering about some stuff, and I was like, okay, maybe not. I finally listened to it today, and it is absolutely about the post I wrote. And they go into like a lot of detail about some stuff I talked about, and like having some like criticism of what I said, and I had like a lot to respond to, which I tweeted to them about, which they seem to think I was way more like frustrated or something with them. No, absolutely not. Like, it was a super great discussion that they had, and I had more thoughts, and then they had more thoughts, and it's a really cool conversation. Specifically, it was about the original episode was about comedy, because the professor himself is actually a comedian, and responsibility with telling jokes on really sensitive subjects, and what's the navigation you have to do, and what's the landscape there, and I had Pete the comedian shared his thoughts, Charlie the librarian shared his thoughts because he's a humanities guy, and then I wrote another blog post about it. And anyway, it was just kind of cool to have that interaction. Admittedly, like a week later, so that kind of I'm sorry, but yeah, that was kind of a real treat, just to be like, oh hey, it looks like I'm going to be hearing about myself for a little bit, which is equally exciting. And anyway, I should stop talking about it because I want to avoid narcissism. But yeah, that's what's been on my mind. Tomorrow, I will be making a drive down to Warner Robins to do work, because that's where I have to go to do part of my job that involves compiling and looking at code on some certain parts. So it's still stressful, a lot of stuff going on, but this is a super taxing step because it takes 2 hours to get down there just to look at some code, and that's kind of like demoralizing. But it's a necessary thing to get an idea of where we're at and what I need to do. So it's the proactive thing, it's the responsible thing to do. So that's what I'm doing. So, I didn't mention. Oh, yeah, speaking of Nick Robinson in his video, he talked about like Amiibo, just some gaming stuff, and I realized like, oh yeah, in the middle of all this conference stuff, during like a quiet, on the Sunday afternoon, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go to GameStop and pick up Splatoon, which is this new Nintendo game that's like this first-person shooter that's kid friendly, but also people are really excited about it because the object of the game is more to just like shoot ink at walls and just cover the area with as much of your color as possible, which I think is super exciting and charming and fun. And so I bought that, and that's just sitting over there on the table, and I have yet to play it. So I'm looking forward to playing that. Maybe I will use that as a reward for when I feel like I'm making forward progress at work. That seems pretty reasonable. And man, I wish I would have a decent way of recording playing that. Don't think I do. But that's okay. I mean, do you really need to see me playing it? It would be nice if I could do stuff like that, like streaming and stuff, which I can do on PC pretty well. But, oh well. I can definitely chat about how much fun it is. So, that's probably enough for me. Hopefully, when I get, in a less ridiculously busy, stressful time, then I'll be able to, do more interesting things, hopefully. Or maybe it will always be me just chatting about stuff, but maybe I can put more time into preparing an argument. Almost like the one I did the most of was, one of my earlier ones that I've honestly forgotten what it was about. Wow. Okay, I will spare you that, and I'm not even going to edit this and just try to find it. It was a week ago or so. So, that's all from me. I will see y'all tomorrow, and I will be more on point. So, adios.